Hi, my name is Michael Hackett from Logic Corporation, and we're going to be doing a video series on continuous testing in DevOps. So to start with, today I want to be talking about DevOps and what is DevOps. So the problem we're trying to solve with DevOps is, I could describe in many ways, but let me give you an example that hopefully you cannot identify with, where the programming team and the testing team and the product owners or the business, they work really hard. They have these deadlines and they have to get something done by a certain date, and they work really hard and they're putting in a lot of hours and going crazy trying to fix bugs and get all the testing done and cut testing coverage to get done with this product that has to go to customers. It has to go to customers, and then the product gets done and it gets sent over to operations, and then it doesn't make it out. It gets sent to operations, and operations is busy doing other things. It takes operations a long time to get the product out the door. It takes a long time to configure the networks and re-provision the network, re-provision the databases, and just operations, getting the product out to customers takes a long time. Maybe they have to wait until Saturday and they come in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday and spend most of the day on Saturday, where they finally get the product running at 2 a.m. on Saturday when the system usage is low, or there's no system usage, or they block customers from using the system. And moving something from when it's finished with development to the time it gets into production and used by customers can sometimes take a long time. And I know that that developers and the testers sometimes feel like they worked really hard, they got their end of the bargain done, and operations just sat on it for a week. Well, I don't ever believe that's true, because I know what happens in operations, and sometimes operations is a very laborious, long, cumbersome task. Sometimes stuff gets dumped on their lap that they don't really they don't have a lot of clues as to what's happening and how things are going to change, and it's difficult moving things to production. So what DevOps is trying to do is shorten that time so that when something is ready, when something is delivered, when the code is delivered by the development side of the house, it can be moved into production as fast as possible. That's really a general description. There are groups that are even trying like continuous deployment, where every time something is done by the development team, it can get moved to deployment almost immediately. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So the problem we're trying to solve is to bring operations in earlier, to make operations work, to help operations work closer and better with the team. So what I want to talk about now is what is DevOps. And DevOps, I love the image of the blind man and the elephant. I know many of you have seen that image before, where these blind men are looking at the elephant and they're saying, what is an elephant? And some people think an elephant is like a snake, or an elephant is like a tree, or an elephant is like a wall, or an elephant is smooth and soft, or an elephant is hairy. An elephant is different things to different people. And that's exactly what DevOps is. DevOps is different things to different people. Let's take a look at what some of those descriptions of DevOps are. Many people call DevOps Agile on steroids. So I love that description. So where Agile had such a big impact on how fast the development and testing groups could get code, get functionality out to customers, it increased the delivery speed tremendously, so that development organizations are able to get functionality out to customers so much faster today because of Agile. Well, DevOps is like putting Agile on steroids. Hyperspeed ability for developers and testers to get code delivered to operations and then deployed out to customers. Another way that people describe DevOps is that it's Agile for operations, where what Agile did for development and testing, DevOps is doing for operations. And there's a piece of this that I like to say is true also, where the technologies and the tools that became available at the time that Agile was happening really helped move development organizations forward much faster. Well, this has been happening on the development side as well. there are tools like Docker and Puppet and Chef and virtualization, using VMs and using the cloud, that have really made operations a much more automated task than it had been previously at all. So many more tasks can be automated by operations that the idea that DevOps is really agile for operations rings true as well. But the most common description for DevOps today is the one that I want to use now. And that is that we have development, we have operations, and we have QA, or testing. And these three teams have to work together better. These three teams work together more, they have to work together better. This same thing happened in Agile with the formation of the team, where development and testing had to spend a lot more time together, collaborate more, and now we're just bringing operations into this mix as well. So DevOps is simply development, operations, and testing working much closer. Another way that people talk about DevOps today is shift left. That operations and a lot of the operations tasks shift left. So we have development, and development does their stuff, and then they hand off to testing, and then testing does their stuff, and then when testing is done, that hands off to operations. Well, that's very old style, that's very waterfall. One team hands off to another, hands off to another, hands off to another. What DevOps is about is we're going to shift a bunch of the operations tasks much earlier in the process. We're going to shift them left in the process, where operations is involved at a much earlier stage. Let's say the example that I like to use for this is performance testing. So if development would do their stuff, and they might performance test a little bit at the individual component level, give it to testing, and maybe the test team doesn't run performance tests because maybe they don't have the right environments, they don't have the tools because performance testing tools are expensive, so they don't do any performance testing. They get done, the product is delivered to operations, and then all of a sudden operations is going to run their performance tests, and all of a sudden operations finds a bug, and it has to get thrown back to development, and they have to fix that bug that's going to slow down, that may be slowing down performance, so we have to run a bunch of tests, and then it's going to get handed over to operations later. If we can shift their tasks earlier, and we can leverage a bunch of the new technologies that are out now, either testing in the cloud or VMs or containers, we can run performance testing much earlier, run performance testing on a really effective, virtually production-like environment with big production-like data. If we can run that a lot earlier in the process and they find a performance problem, development can fix that much earlier in the process. So shifting left is another way that people describe DevOps. Okay, so we have these various descriptions of what DevOps is. Let's talk about how testing fits in. So even in Agile days, I was going to say in the old days, in the Agile days, development would develop, right? They would do their stuff. And now they can do an auto build, and we have great tools like Jenkins and Bamboo and so many other tools like that, where development can develop. You can use one of these tools to do an auto build and rerun our unit tests. So we develop and then we test. And then maybe it gets sent to a testing environment, and what happens in the testing environment? Testers test. And then maybe it gets sent to the staging environment, and in the staging environment or pre-production, it gets tested. And then it gets sent to live or production, and we test. So there's testing at every step. I like to think of DevOps as the lean principle, the lean software development principle of quality at every step. We develop, we make sure we have quality there. We test, we make sure we have quality there. We move it to staging, we have quality there. We move it to production, we test it and make sure that we have a quality product there. So we're testing at every step. This brings us to what's going to be the focus of this series is continuous testing. The part of DevOps that impacts traditional QA teams, test teams the most, is called continuous testing. So in the next video, we're going to be talking about what is continuous testing, what pieces of continuous testing do we already have, and how can we grow into continuous testing. Thanks.